Hello, people of St. Paul's and those connecting here this way this week. This is Pastor Adam again, reaching out to you for a midweek devotion and some thoughts for us all about life together and about how to prepare for what's to come and to get ready for the future and live in these days in which we find ourselves, these days of transition and change as the church, um, these days of transition and change in the world and in society as we try and figure out what it means to live together in this world and to love well and to care well for for other people, for those in part of the church and those not part of the church at this point. So this devotion and reflection is scheduled for Wednesday, September 23rd. 2020. This is through St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Williamsville, New York. I'm Pastor Adam Miller Stubendick. If you have thoughts or things you want to say to me about these Wednesday reflections or responses for me, please let me know. The last few weeks, I'll remind you, we've been talking about change and transition and how to move through change, which is something is different. And you move through change by transitioning, which is a process of a good ending, which means letting go of the past or coming to grips with the past, grieving that what was no longer is. So a good ending, and then a neutral zone, a liminal space, an in-between time where we know the ending, what was is no longer returning, but we aren't sure what we're moving to yet. I'm the literal embodiment of this in-between time because St. Paul's former pastors Wendy and Tim have retired, so their tenure here has ended. Beautiful 20 years of life together here in this place, but they're not going to return to lead St. Paul's again and lead with the people of St. Paul's and walk with the people of St. Paul's again. So that's an ending. And so now we're in this in-between time where I'm with you and we've got a global pandemic going on and all the upheaval going on in the world and in our own communities. And we don't know what the future looks like. So this in-between time can be scary or it can be life-giving. And sometimes it's scary and sometimes it's life-giving and sometimes it's just too much. So then the new beginning is that new thing that shows up last. After a good ending and some space and some intentional time to ask, who are we and who is God calling us to be and what does this time and what can we imagine God's future for us and for the community around us to be? So that's what we've been doing these last few weeks here during September. Today I want to shift our imagery a little bit. And as an intentional interim pastor, when I talk about the work that I do in people outside the church, people move to kind of they aren't sure to fully understand my role. So I've heard a few people in different places, both inside but mostly outside the church, say, so you're the fix-it person. I'm like, well, partly I'll name to you, I don't like to be known as the fix-it person because it implies some things are always broken and they're not. It's there needs to be a way to move from what was to what will be, and that's my role. So we often want to name me or someone in this role as something's broken and needs fixing. But that's a mechanical model of thinking. And today I want to spend more time thinking about an organic or a living model of thinking. A mechanical model is, for instance, your washing machine breaks, your dishwasher breaks, your car breaks. And it's fairly straightforward. Someone can come in, diagnose what's going on, repair or replace what's broken, and then the thing goes back to working again. So in that model, in the church life, we might say, well, this and so program isn't what it used to be, or we need to start this new thing, add this new part, take this thing out, and then everything will go great. That's not how life in community really works. It's not like we can say, oh, there's this, if we did X, Y, and Z, all would go well, all the things, all our hopes and dreams for the church would all of a sudden come to be, and our fears and our challenges would disappear. It's not that simple. But the thing that I want you to hear today and to hear from me this week is that communities, groups of people, are a living organism. That's to say they breathe and they have a whole lot more in common with individual peoples or with individual people or with plants or animals or other things that live and breathe. And if you think about living organisms, you don't, if they're not as healthy as you'd like them to be, if they aren't bearing the fruit you would like them to bear, you don't cut a part out and replace it. To help a living organism thrive, fulfill its optimal function and its ways of being, you nurture it. You care for it. And you don't only care for the part that's injured or sick or not functioning in the ways that you might hope and believe it could be called to function. No, you do these things for the entirety of the organism. So rather than a fix-it person, if people like to use that analogy for me, I am much generally push back and say, no, I like to be the nurturer, where we figure out what areas of congregational life could use a little extra TLC, tender loving care. And then you nurture the whole organism so it can be healthier. It's also to say that in living organisms, there's a whole continuum of health and of vitality and of fully living into what a living organism's full potential can be. So there's not either you're not either healthy or unhealthy. You as a human being, us as a congregation, society in which we live is not either healthy or unhealthy. It's somewhere in the continuum of health, trying to shift towards optimal health and away from less healthy practices, per se. So if I physically am not at my optimal health, what I might do is figure out what I might need in my life, be it healthier food or more exercise or more rest or better connectivity with other human beings or a little more quiet time for myself. Whatever the things may be that would help me get closer to the fullest embodiment of how God might desire me to live. But it's like I'm going to cut off part of myself and say, oh, we'll let go of that part and then I'll be healthier. There's a beautiful parable about this that Jesus told. It's in Luke chapter 13. I think you'll know this parable once I start to read it to you, but this is what we're trying to do in the life of faith. It's to nurture the whole system, to nurture the community, nurture the relationships, nurture one another to more vitality, more vibrancy, to be closer to the continuum of the healthy side of the perspective versus the unhealthy side of the perspective, and to figure out what needs extra care and what needs pruning sometimes, which a healthy plant also sometimes needs some pruning, and what needs a little extra good manure, good natural fertilizer to help it grow well. So bear with that analogy, if you will. But here we go. Here's this analogy, this story from Jesus in Luke chapter 13. Then Jesus told this parable. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came looking for fruit on it and found none. So he said to the gardener, "See here, for 3 years I've come looking for fruit on this fig tree, and still I find none. Cut it down. Why should it be wasting the soil?" The gardener replied, "Sir, let it alone for 1 more year, until I dig around it and put manure on it. If it bears fruit next year, well and good. But if not, you can cut it down." That's from Luke chapter 13. The gardener is pleading, saying, don't cut the tree down. If you want a tree to bear fruit, which is the goal of I anticipate the vineyard owner really loves figs and wants a fig tree, but he's frustrated there aren't figs. Well, if you cut the fig tree down, you're never going to have figs. So the gardener says, let me nurture it. Let me make sure it gets the nutrients it needs, the water it needs, the sunlight it needs. Give it fertile soil in which to thrive. You as an individual need things in your life set up a certain way so you can thrive. You know what those are. Sometimes we don't always live them to the fullest, but you know what the things are in your life that you need to most fully and authentically be yourself. And you know the care and nurture that you need to get there. Likewise, as the church, there are things that we need to be as alive and to be as full of vigor as we can be, so that we can be nurtured and as healthy as we can be. But we're not here to cut things out, pull a part out that's not working right, fix it, and put it back in. The goal of congregational life is to nurture the community. Nurture the community meaning care for one another, care for the relationships, care for the way that this congregation is connected to the community in which it's located, Williamsville. Care for the way in which this congregation relates to other churches, mosques, synagogues, the non-religious. Care for the ways that this congregation relates to the synodical expression of the Lutheran Church, that's the Upstate New York Synod, and care for the ways that this church embodies its relationship with the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America as a whole, and our participation in the Lutheran World Federation. How do we nurture our relationships? Is there someone who, when you think about St. Paul's Lutheran Church, like, that person from this community, I miss. I wonder how they're doing. I miss our big conversations and our small conversations and our friendly chats. Call them, text them, email them when you're done here to say, hey, just thinking about you. Are there people that you care greatly about or that you haven't thought about in a while from this congregation? Are there ways that you've related to St. Paul's in the past that you wish could be revamped, changed, move into something different and new so that that thing that has been nourishing might be nourishing again in 2020, 2021? How might we nurture this community of faith so that it can nurture the community around it, the individuals within it, and so that it can bear the fruit of what it means to be a faithful congregation? The fruit of faithful congregations are being a place of love and grace and forgiveness for the people who show up in the community around it. The fruits of a congregation be a place where people are formed spiritually, where they're well fed. I wish we could do more of that literally right now, but COVID makes it hard. So basically today I want you to hear a congregation is a living organism. A living organism that needs care and nurture in order to thrive, in order to optimally be healthy. So if you need more care and nurture, I encourage you to seek that out, or if you know of someone who needs more care and nurture, reach out to them and care for them and nurture them. Give it just more time, says the gardener to the vineyard owner. It's not just more time, though. The gardener also says, I'll do the nurturing of this tree. So let's do the nurturing of this community of faith that is St. Paul's in Williamsville. Let's do the nurturing of being part of God's ways in the world, ways that speak to the love and grace and forgiveness that we experience of God, and the ways that God might ask our world and our community to live and be in relationship with us and the world around us right now. Let's be a place and a people and a congregation of nurture, so the community can thrive, so that individuals can thrive, so that relationships can thrive, and so that God's loving ways in the world can thrive, so that we can have a closer walk with our God in Christ. Which is the song I want to close us with today, because I think it's a beautiful song about needing to be connected to our root, that is our relationships with God and one another, so that we can thrive as individuals and as a community. So we as the church are a living, organic system that needs care and nurture. Let's be about care and nurture so that this place can thrive and live out God's intended purposes for it and for us and for the world. I'm going to send us out singing Just a Closer Walk with Thee, which in Evangelical Lutheran Worship is number 697. Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Join me as you want, and it's good to talk with you again today about health and change and transition and how to be as healthy of an organism as we can be as a community of faith. Just a closer walk with Thee. Just a closer walk with Thee, grant it, Jesus, is my plea. Daily walking close to Thee, let it be, dear Lord, let it be. I am weak, but Thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk. Let me walk close to Thee. Just a closer walk with Thee. Grant it, Jesus, is my plea. Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Through this world of toil and snares, if I falter, Lord, You care. You with me my burden share. Yes, You do, dear Lord, my burden share. Just a closer walk with Thee. Grant it, Jesus, is my plea. Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. When my feeble life is o'er, time for me will be no more. Guide me gently, safely o'er to Thy shore, dear Lord, to Thy shore. Just a closer walk with Thee. Grant it, Jesus, is my plea. Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. May your walk with Christ nurture you, sustain you, and grow you closer to God and one another, so that we may nurture and sustain and grow closer to one another in the community around us. Let it be, dear Lord. Let it be.